Welcome to the Liberated Life. Get ready to free your mind, body, and spirit in business and pleasure. Now here's your host, Robin Quinn Keehn.
Hi, this is Robin from The Liberated Life. I have a wonderful guest with me here today. Her name is Jaya Myra, and she's a research scientist turned natural health advocate. She's known as the wellness lifestyle expert, and she's the go-to media expert on mind-body wellness, stress management, mindfulness, food for mood, and natural healthy living. Wow, so many great things in that one sentence there, Myra.
Thank you.
She's a best-selling author, TEDx and motivational speaker, and creator of the Well Method, which we're going to have to hear all about. After healing herself naturally from debilitating fibromyalgia, Myra developed the Well Method to teach others the 4 cornerstones of a healthy, purpose-driven life. Her approach to mind-body wellness, spirituality, and purpose shows why one-size-fits-all solutions don't work for everyone, and how to find what will work for you. So welcome to the show, Myra. I'm delighted to have you here. So much about what you do resonates with me. And so I'm anxious to have a conversation with you and find out about your book and find out about the Well Method and find out what got you here and what makes you happy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here today.
You are welcome. So why don't we start with like a big picture of what you love to do? I'd love to hear that.
Well, I think the big picture of what I love to do is to enable other people to succeed in their life. And that comes in a variety of different formats, whether it's my day-to-day work running a boutique PR agency, whether it's through my talks, my TEDx talk, the books that I have on the market. Everything that I'm doing in one way or another is helping other people to be more successful at their own lives and really filling in some of the missing pieces as to how we can make simple changes that are very practical in day-to-day life that really help people to build synergy so that it doesn't feel like you're pushing that boulder up a mountain, but everything just works cohesively together to create a better life.
I really love that. I'd love to hear some of those connective pieces. But I know that we've had a little bit of a conversation, the idea around purpose. Is that foundational for you?
Foundational, I think, for everything. And it's one of the things that I share in my upcoming book, The Soul of Purpose. But the reason why it is so foundational is because it's the causal seed for everything. It's literally the missing link between spirituality and health. So I'm not sure if you're familiar much with Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, but they both rely on a 5 elemental framework. And those elements relate to your temperament, to your psychological state, to the way that you deal with things in life, your talents, your gifts, even like your physical body structure. But it's actually purpose that creates everything that there is about us. So without what it is that it was our purpose for being here, we wouldn't have been given a specific physical body composition or type. We would not have been given these God-given talents and strengths unless that they were meant to help us align with what we're here to do. So I literally see purpose as the causal root seed of everything that we are. So when we're not living in alignment with purpose, everything gets out of balance. Health and well-being and mindset, and just like literally everything about who you are just starts to like crumble underneath you. But when you're living your purpose, everything starts to get it seems like magically better.
Very interesting. So how do you help people figure out what their purpose is? It feels to me like so many people, well, my experience has been, I've pretty much known my purpose, but then when I had a sense of having completed what I would consider a mission, just one of my missions in my purpose, but I didn't see it that way initially. I was just like, wow, I put that big music and dance studio out in the world and I impacted a community and I raised 4 kids. And then I was like, well, what am I supposed to do next?
Yes.
So I'm sure you've had many people that have come to you with that question. So what happens when we seem to lose our purpose or we have fulfilled part of our purpose? How do we find or rediscover our purpose again?
That's a great question. And I think it comes down to a couple of major things. Purpose is always created out of meaning, like things that help to give us meaning in life. So I think that there's 2 different big, huge, overarching pieces that help to convey meaning. One is, what are those God-given talents that we are given? What are those things that are in alignment with our elemental composition and as our talents and our strengths? So that's like one of these like two pieces. Like, well, what are we innately good at? What are the types of things that we're good at? How do we see the world? But then meaning also comes from our experiences. And usually it's the painful experiences that we have in life that seem to give us the most meaning and the most drive towards like making a change. So whenever you're able to look at a situation that has impacted your life in a deeply emotional way and combine that with your God-given talents and gifts and use those to make the world a better place from it, you can be pretty certain that you're going to find purpose in that, because you're taking basically these two huge pieces of your psyche and putting them together in a positive way that's going to make an impact.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm wondering if you can give me an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, one of my strengths has always been in writing. So of course, I'm an author. I also do a lot with PR and publicity, which comes down to a lot of email composition writing, a lot of brand building for people, teaching them about messaging. Even when I started my career as a research scientist, I was doing a lot of writing because I was like the one scientist who could always like put things together coherently into writing. So that has always found its way into something that I'm doing. And then whenever I look at things that help give meaning like to me in life, like I want to help other people succeed and be successful, because you know we need to do that as entrepreneurs, right? We're here to change the world. So PR is a great way for me to do that for people because it helps other people to get their messages out. So by combining my talents in writing and communication, like with a desire to give back and help others define their message, that's something that brings me a lot of meaning in life. Through my work as an author, helping people to understand their purpose, how to really understand what are these inherent gifts and strengths that we have, how do they relate to your elemental composition so that you can hone in and further find more talents that you have, because we've all got talents that are not cultivated, but things that we would have an innate aptitude towards if we decided to take the time and try some things out. So helping people to understand kind of the spiritual science and then bridge it with the practical stuff in day-to-day life. That's always something that's been really meaningful for me. So whether it's helping people to further understand who they are as a person, like who their brand is, and helping them to put that out into the world, like that's, I think, really that defines my sense of purpose. Anything that I can do to help other people succeed and enable and empower them to do that. And it's always, for me, it's going to involve some aspect of writing or teaching or communication-based work, because these are things that really leverage those talents that I was given.
Right. That makes complete sense to me. I can see the tie together for all of that with you. So how do you help people find their purpose? I know you have a book coming up, and is that
I do.
designed to help people hone in on their purpose?
Yes, this book is. It goes through the WELL method, and it also has a very bespoke wellness plan that is based on each person's unique elemental type. So in the book, I teach people how to find their elemental type, how to understand what that means for them, and also how they can use that to help define like what their purpose is right now and what is like helping to cultivate meaning. So yeah, the upcoming book will definitely do all of that. My first book as well goes into a lot of detail on those same concepts, like helping people to understand what are the differences in elemental types and how can you use that to find healing modalities that are going to work to make you feel better.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, tell me more. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I read it in your bio as well. You are the creator of the WELL method. What is the WELL method?
So the WELL method is essentially using the word WELL, W-E-L-L, as an acronym to remember 4 basic cornerstones that are going to help to shape your mindset in a positive way. And this can be for your own health and well-being, or also for societal well-being. There's really very little difference in the two. If you're really like working on yourself as an individual, you're also going to help to heal society, to heal like racial injustice and inequality, and help to make the world a better place. So basically, WELL is an acronym. The W stands for work-life harmony. We've all got our own unique definitions of that, but it's really important to understand that I don't believe in balance. This is why I don't use like the word balance in anything. I don't think life is ever truly balanced, but we need to find ways to be in harmony with our work and with our life. Of course, if you can fulfill your purpose in your day-to-day work, that is an optimum solution. But basically, you need to know what's important to you so that you can prioritize those things in life and not let your work conflict with that. I think one of the most important things with the WELL method is the letter E, which stands for expect excellence in yourself, or if we're talking about other people, that would be enable excellence, because there is a difference in the two. So expecting excellence really comes down to cultivating your own character, learning how to really keep refining yourself on a daily basis, how to dig in to your beliefs and your subconscious and unconscious beliefs and start to shape your mindset in a way that is going to enable you to succeed. So we've all got a lot of garbage that goes on in our mind, and we need to root that out and reposition it in a way that's going to be successful. So how do you think about things? What are the things that you do on a daily basis that enables you to succeed? Are you aware of the things that you're doing that maybe aren't enabling you to succeed? I mean, and these can be very simple. It can be as simple as, what are you eating? Like, people don't understand the very strong impact that food has on mood and mindfulness and overall well-being. Like, there's very strong dietary connections. There's connections to exercise, of course, to meditation and to mindfulness. So expecting excellence is, how are you structuring your day in a way that's going to enable you to succeed and help you to overcome obstacles? And it's a really positive way for us to understand that there's always small and simple things that we can do. Now, enabling excellence is a little bit different because we cannot put our demands onto other people, and that really comes down to being compassionate and understanding, and what can we do to amplify the positivity in others to give them the motivation to expect excellence in themselves. So I think those two are like really foundational cornerstones of the WELL method that I always suggest that people start with, because that's like really going to set the pace for changing everything.
That's really the excavation of things that we may not even be aware of that are limiting us, right? Self-sabotaging, negative self-talk, just even noticing that can be very transformational when you catch yourself saying things to yourself that are not positive, right? Just that one awareness can begin to shift things, I think, for people.
Oh, absolutely. And like, you can take it to as deep of a level as you want. But like, for me, it's really about understanding, where do your beliefs come from? Because everything that we think, that we believe, that we feel, that we have an emotional connection to, we've learned from somewhere. And so is this a conscious choice of something that you want to keep having in your life, or do you want to make a change? Like, an example I use a lot is, maybe you were 5 years old and you got bitten by a dog. So then you have a fear of dogs as you grow up, right? Well, so if I walk down the street and my neighbor Mary is walking her dog, if I was bitten by a dog as a child, I'm probably going to be afraid of Mary's dog, right? Well, Mary's dog has never done anything bad to me, so why am I relating in a negative way to Mary's dog? So it's about like coming back into that present moment and saying, hey, this was a pattern that was conditioned in me because of an experience, and I can choose to retrain my mind. It's like an acknowledgement that it's natural to feel this way, but then you also get to work on retraining the mind to understand that this situation is not my past, and I want to move into a place of being loving to everyone and everything that I come into contact with, which is one of the L's in the WELL method, by the way, is to come from a place of love and not from a place of fear.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. My son was terrified of dogs, so I can totally relate to that conversation, because he had the very experience when he was 2 with a big dog jumping on him, knocking him flat, and it happens. Yeah. So we lived with that. And I think maybe, even though we want to address these things, I think sometimes we're not ready to address them until life gets too painful and we start noticing, oh my gosh, I can't walk down the street in my neighborhood without having a reaction. And that's just no longer acceptable. And that's when we're willing to do this kind of introspective work. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think some people really have to get backed into a corner before they're willing to go and make a positive change. But I also think that the more we can cultivate something I call inner prosperity, which is kind of like fuel and momentum, it can really help you to want to address these issues without feeling like you absolutely have to. But yes, I think that that is the first catalyst for everyone. We always either have some sort of a spiritual awakening or an experience or something that happens that says, man, I need to change this right now so that history does not repeat itself.
Right. And my show is all about freedom. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about having enough freedom from those concerns, those limiting beliefs, those old stories, so that we live with more, with more freedom in our lives.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people experience it when it comes to relationships. In particular, if you lose a relationship that was meaningful to you because of something that you felt was out of control in your life. So yes, the more that we come back into what we would perceive as control, I would not even use that languaging necessarily. I don't think we have control over a lot, but we do have control over our perceptions. So it's knowing that like we can make the choice right now that is going to be the most beneficial to us, and we don't have to be constrained by anything that has happened in the past, because there is always a way to retrain the mind.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree. And it is all about perception. I had somebody say something to me once, and I said, well, it was negative. And I said, well, if you say so, like, I'm not going to buy into that, but if you say so, if you choose to perceive it that way, that's really literally your choice. But I think about the perception piece a lot, even in conversations. I've got 4 kids, even in conversations with my children that are now all, just barely adults and into adulthood, and their perception, our perception of the same situation can be so different. I've always told them since they were little, you write your own script. I don't know why I had that languaging, but I've been saying that since they were old enough to walk, right? Well, you write your own script. That gives you a ton of freedom too. I mean, we get to choose how we perceive things, the interpretation we lay on top of anything that happens to us. So knowing that we're doing that and being able to choose and let other people choose theirs. We don't want to lay it on them. Like you were saying, we can't force anything on anybody, but just taking care of ourselves and keeping ourselves in a good place is helpful for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, like you said, too, understanding that everyone is going to have their own script and narrative to their life. Like maybe like you and your child had the exact same experience. You two are going to have completely different perceptions of that experience, both after it happens and then a year later or 10 years later. I bet if you were to look at a situation and say, what is your story around this? It is not going to be the same as another person, like practically ever. So there's a lot of things we tend to beat ourselves up about, especially as adults. We're our own worst critic. But another person isn't going to see the situation in the same way, even if they experienced it. So sometimes just going through that exercise of communicating with other people that have shared an experience with you and say, hey, what is your story around this? It really helps to unlock what's going on in the mind, to realize that, hey, you can make a change. You're the author of your own life, and you can write your story as is best for you.
Yes, I love that. So do you do that kind of work with your clients I know you do PR?
I do.
Does this come up in, retelling stories in a different way, like even in your PR, in your email copy on your website? I'm just curious if that's part of what you do.
Well, whenever I think about brand building, it's always how do we bring out the most positive brand presence possible in a way that is going to help other people fulfill their dream, reach their goals, accomplish something that they want to accomplish. This is really what building a brand is. So I think understanding the psychology behind how people think has enabled me to be very, very successful with my work. Also anticipating what is a journalist going to want out of this particular company or story? How can we relate this particular product to an event or a holiday that's coming up? So it's having like that deeper understanding and being able to put pieces together. I think that really enables people to succeed in general, but especially with communications related work. When I consult with people one-on-one, when it's helping them to find their purpose or to cultivate a meditation routine, it's always a matter of understanding like what are the perceived limitations, and then understanding what the gifts that a person has are, their innate talents, so that we can leverage those to start whittling away at the obstacles and the negativity. This is why there's always personalized solutions. Like there's never a one size fits all path that's going to work for anyone. And you've got to work with yourself as like a unique individual. And you have to truly understand that what works for you is not going to work for your spouse, not going to work for your kids, not going to work for your neighbor, and just really, really own the responsibility on that. Like that's why that expecting excellence piece is so foundational and so crucial, because you are not the same as anyone else. And that's your superpower.
I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's very interesting, and I have a lot of personal interest in personal growth. I'm always working on myself. I'm trying to be in the moment and aware. And so much of what you're talking about, I'm like, yes, more of this. This is so good.
And I think like we all want to be more in the moment, and I think most people want to better themselves in some way, right? I don't think anyone wants to sit on the couch and do nothing. If they do that, it's because they don't feel empowered to do something more. It is human nature to want to give back and constantly do more and be better and better our circumstance in life. And whenever we're not, it's always important to understand that there is a reason why. If you have negative thoughts coming through, there's a reason why. It's not because you're doing something fundamentally wrong. Like the mind is working the way that it's supposed to be working, the way that you've conditioned it to. So all you got to do is like start to rewrite things. Like understand everything is perfect the way it is now, because you are responding exactly as the mind is supposed to every situation and circumstance. If you don't like the way that you're reacting to the circumstance, then you get to start rewriting things and going through the effort required to do that. But there's so many people that don't want to accept just that basic level of, if you're being negative, the mind is doing what you've trained it to do. And so this is perfect perfection. It's working the way that it's supposed to. There's so many people that are like, you should just be positive all the time. And if you're not always positive, there's something wrong. And like, that's not true at all. Like, understand, literally, everything is perfect right now. And if you want to see something change, all you got to do is do a slight bit of reprogramming, and you can get to where you want to be pretty quickly.
And that's great news, isn't it? Like thinking and believing everything is perfect because you've set it up this way. But you can, now that you know that you're not liking something, now is the time when you can start to make that redirect or shift or whatever. Yeah,
absolutely. Because that's like reframing everything from a perspective of it is all as it should be. And once we can fully accept that, that's the only time you can start to change something, is when you accept the way that it already is.
So important. So important. And I often say to people, it's perfect. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it's perfect. And I used to get some flack for that. Like, how can it be perfect? I'm like, I don't know, but it is. That's just the way it is. So acceptance of what it is a great place to be, and much better than fighting it. So
it's just much better to be like, yes, I understand that this is the way it is because of X, Y, or Z, or something that has happened in my life. So, and it's also okay to say that I want to change this right now, and I don't want to be in that state.
Right.
Yeah. Just like really own your power behind having the ability to change anything.
That's exciting. That's very exciting.
I think it is.
Yes. I want to get back to the because we didn't do that. And I'm like, we have to talk about the last L.
Okay. So the last L is technically that live with love and not fear, which is more about coming from a place of being responsive and not reactive. And again, being reactive is conditioned by past experience. Being responsive is more about being in the present moment and choosing to be compassionate and caring to a situation and circumstance. But the other L is to live your purpose. And for all the reasons that we have stated, that it creates everything about you. It's literally that spiritual piece of you, like that's connected to your soul, that determines everything about your physical body, size, shape, structure, your talents, your gifts, anything like that God has given you is because of your purpose. So whenever you are utilizing your talents and helping to live your purpose, you're actually empowering that divinity that resides inside of you. Whether you call that yourself or God or whatever religion you follow, I don't think that matters. It's just that universal piece of you that connects you with everything else in the cosmos.
Yeah, I love that too. I love so much about this conversation. So I can't wait to read your book. I love thinking about purpose. I love helping people with that big question when it comes up. because it just seems to come up a lot. And all of these things we've talked about are so helpful. And I'm really curious about the elemental piece. And so I'm assuming that's in your first book, or that's in this book. Is it in both?
It's in both. It's foundational. So you're going to find information about that in both of them. But both Chinese medicine and Ayurveda talk about 5 elements. Now, Ayurveda talks about doshas like Vata, Pitta, and Kapha dosha. But when you study it as a practitioner, it all breaks down into 5 elements. So I kind of just leave out the 3 dosha component, because when you break everything down to the 5 basic elements, you really get into psychology and temperament and mindset. And you don't get that as much when you just look like at the doshas. So I think that's why Chinese medicine is also a really good framework, because it also utilizes like a 5-element methodology for understanding kind of just universal principles, whether they relate to your body or to your mindset or just to the way that you relate to life in general. Like I can actually look at someone and tell you a little bit about your elemental type just by the way that the physical body is structured. Like that is how powerful it is for shaping you into you.
Fascinating. I'm very fascinated. Okay, I'm going to go. Is your book on Amazon?
It is definitely on Amazon. And I highly encourage people to order early, because I'm doing a very awesome giveaway, like a weekly giveaway to anyone who pre-orders the book before the launch date. As long as you send me a copy of your receipt, everything's on my website, you'll be entered into a weekly drawing to win a session with me, which is awesome because I don't do just one-on-one sessions with people. Normally you'd have to like book a long-term coaching plan or like an online course. So this is your chance to get 30 minutes with me to ask your questions, to dive into something, and all free just by pre-ordering a copy of my book.
Wow, that's an amazing gift. Thank you so much. And so Myra, when is your book launching? When is the date?
January 5th, 2021.
Okay, great. Our listeners will have an opportunity then to participate in that. So that's very exciting. So I wanted to ask you, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. What's your favorite book and why?
Oh man, I have a lot of favorite books, but I would probably have to say that the most impactful book on my life ever was the Bhagavad Gita, because that whole scripture is really a scripture of psychological growth and character development towards unification and reaching unity consciousness. So it has been truly, truly foundational to everything that I do in my life. I even founded a nonprofit organization called Gita for the Masses that uses spirituality as a platform for character development. And I just can't speak enough good things. I think when it gets tied up with a particular tradition or dogma, that's where people run into problems, because one guru or teacher is going to teach it one way, someone else may teach it a completely different way. Like I don't follow ISKCON at all. I think I come at it from about 180 degrees opposite perspective. And of course, that's what most people think of when they think of the Gita. But if you just like look at the scripture for what it is such a powerful tool for understanding how to overcome our attachments and the way that our mind is structured now to become who you want to be.
Fascinating. Okay, great. Well, I think that's the first time I've heard anyone recommend that to me. So I'm going to go check it out as well.
On a practical book, a good friend of mine just released her book about 2 weeks ago. It's called Anxiety, I'm So Done With You. It's a guide for parents and teenagers for overcoming stress and anxiety. It's actually a workbook, so you get a lot of actionable steps that you can take to understand how to become confident and kick anxiety to the curb.
Is that our friend Jody?
That is our friend Jody.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. She was on my show recently, so that's so great. I love that you recommended her.
She's got an amazing book. I'm like so happy for her. I actually got to see her TEDx talk in person. She's just one of those like amazing human beings on this world, and she's really helping to make the world a better place.
She is. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for that recommendation as well. Let's see. One last quick question, and that is, based on what our conversation has been today, do you have like a tip or a takeaway for our listeners, something that they could like implement right away into their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with some food-based solutions. because we all have to eat food every single day, right? Well, we should be eating food every single day. You may survive about 2 weeks without it, but you're not going to be a happy camper. So food is really foundational to mood and overall well-being, and you can use it to stay healthy, to ward off viruses. So you want to stay safe from COVID. There's definitely ways to do that, and to eat foods that help to stimulate proper neurotransmitter function. So your happy hormones like dopamine and serotonin, norepinephrine. The foods that you eat help to regulate that in the body. So you can boost your mood just by incorporating certain foods into your diet. So do you happen to be a chocolate fan? Because I love dark chocolate.
I do.
So I eat cacao just about every day, like pure cocoa powder. I put it into like shakes and smoothies and other things that I make. Cacao is really powerful for stimulating dopamine receptors. Bananas are also like another great choice for that. Salmon, flax, hemp seed, anything with omega-3s. These are also good for stimulating dopamine. Now, I love dopamine because that's what gives you motivation and willpower and like energy. So whenever you feel you just need like a little bit more of a boost, think about eating things like that are going to help to give you that boost that you need naturally. That's what I call synergy. You're going to go eat food anyway, so why don't you eat something that's going to help you to feel better?
That's great. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to say I have a lot of motivation. I eat a lot of those very foods, salmon and chocolate being my favorite. So that's. And I know you specialize in that as well, in the food part of the, overall holistic approach. So
I do, because it's very practical. I'm just a big, huge fan of what are small things we can do each and every day that's going to help us to feel better and be our best. So again, since we have to eat each and every day, pick a handful of foods that are going to keep you healthy and help you to de-stress and improve your motivation and willpower.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's terrific. Thank you for that. Very practical. And we can all do a little bit better on the food end of things, I imagine. Thank you so much for being on my show today. It was really lovely talking to you. I think you and I could probably, get together and talk for a long time about a lot of these things. Maybe you'd like to come back again. We can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another subject to talk about. If you enjoyed the show today, please check out jayajayamyra.com. That is the website where you can find Myra, and I've looked at it. It's beautiful, but she's got so many things there for you. So I would suggest you go check it out, look for her book, pre-order it, and qualify for a chance to win a half an hour with you. That would be really awesome. I'd love that. I have lots of things I could ask you.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great way to give back to people who are helping to support the book effort. I mean, for authors, selling your book, pre-sales is so important. So yeah, I want to give back to people and just do anything I can to make the world a better place. And please do check it out, because I also have a huge charitable campaign with my book launch.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. We'll go check it out. We'll put that in the show notes for you. So thanks so much, Myra, for being here. This is The Liberated Life with Robin Quinn Keehn, and we'll see you the next time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcast. You can also get more great information at quittingculture.com.